and we're going to do a little presentation, and then we'll have a break after that. And whilst you're having the break, we'll do some tricks. That's right. Okay.
Okay. Hi, my name is Angus, and I have Asperger's syndrome and ADHD, and I'm pleased to share my story with you today. I was born in Warwick in 1996, but spent my early years in Hong Kong. And I did have lots of ear and chest infections, tons of antibiotics, and numerous food intolerances. It was very hard for my mum, with my dad travelling all the time, and mum at home in Hong Kong with no family support. So we moved to Cape Town, South Africa, when I was 4 years old, where we lived for 12 years. And the quality of life there was much better, but this was when I started to really struggle with schools and with other kids, and life was getting awfully complicated at this time. My biggest struggle was social interaction and how to break into conversations and make friendships. Often I didn't know what to say or how to start. And as a result of this, I always sat on my own every break and lunchtime because I had no friends. I also suffered horrendous bullying at school and was the only kid not invited to parties, etc. And it was generally hard for me to face the day sometimes. I presented at first with all the traits of severe ADHD, which masked my Asperger's syndrome. The teachers in South Africa just didn't get me. They didn't have the skills to diagnose Asperger's syndrome. But I do have to admit there were lots of bright sides to living in South Africa too. Firstly, I had access to a wide range of therapies, which really helped my sensory systems, and that would have been a lot more expensive in England. And also, I of course experienced the amazing freedom and the amazing outdoor life. And formal school didn't start till the age of 6, and this gave me good enough time to climb trees, swim in the sea, and I still to this day feel alive when diving in and out the waves in the sea, and it is such an amazing feeling. I wasn't formally diagnosed until we moved back to England when I was 15 years old. And to me this was the right time, because it was old enough to make sense, and my parents thought the label was useless until I really needed it. And it then helped me get access to learning support and so on. I started a new school, Breeden, near Tewkesbury 2 years ago, and it was full of kids like me. Breeden is a mainstream but inclusive school with specialist teachers where I could meet kids similar to me, who weren't quite in the special school category, but needed more than the average mainstream school could offer. And when I left South Africa in 2011, I did not leave behind a single friend. But that is not the case now, because I love the fact that I walked away from Breeden with a handful of friends who were really friends this time, and I can probably keep in touch with. Because out of the 15 different schools I've been to throughout my whole life, Breeden is the one and only one which has given me the opportunity to do this. So on to my passion now. I knew it was inside of me somewhere, it was just a case of finding it. And 2 years ago, it just clicked, like magic. Because we Aspies desire recognition and positive reinforcement. And I'm not a good musician, footballer or singer, etc. But I do have my niche with magic, well, I have found it. This has improved my life in so many different ways. It has given me an immediate way into conversations, done wonders for my confidence and self-esteem, as I now know that I'm actually really good at something. It's also given me an opportunity to meet people. Because I go to the Magic Circle weekly, and I now hang out with fellow magicians. Since becoming a magician, people at college often come up and ask me to do a trick. And then I'll do them a trick, I'll blow their mind, and then they'd go and tell others about it. And for Aspies, that is really cool. In the past, I cringe at how I always used to try to get noticed, such as lying in an attempt to win friends. But now my magic does that, and that for me is absolutely amazing. As mentioned, I recently joined the local magic circles and have started my own business at performing at weddings, functions, kids' parties, corporate events, etc., and have been asked to entertain you guys tonight. So going forward, whilst I would love to have a career involving my special interest, I have to be realistic. So I'm enrolled at college on this course to study animal management, and I always have felt a connection with dogs, and currently have a placement at the Guide Dogs. And I'm also busy working on a placement at Dogs for Good, formerly known as Dogs for Disabled, for next year. This organisation is much smaller than the Guide Dogs, but it helps people with so many different disabilities. And if you ask me, Dogs for Good is what really inspires me, because I do hope on training assistant dogs in the future to help people with autism. And I would urge any of you who are considering donating to an autistic charity to give them some thought, because they do such good work for dogs to help people on the spectrum, and they currently don't have the same amount of funds as the Guide Dogs do in order to market themselves. When I was growing up, you see, I had my own dog Cleo, who helped me in so many ways, so I know from this experience what value a dog can do for adults and kids on the spectrum, as there is no judgment and permanent unconditional love. So my message to all Aspies, keep trying to find your passion, and when you do, embrace it. You all have the magic in you, so keep working until you find it. And to all parents, always expect more of your child than other people do, because my parents did, and that's why I'm here today. Thank you. Any questions?
Wow.
Yeah.
If
you like to do a trick for Fantastic. Angus, that was amazing. That was really good. Anyone want to ask anything?
Yeah, got the ADHD as well, which I often have got as well. Do you have many things?
Well, there were thoughts of putting me on Ritalin, but with everything going on for the time being, Ritalin did have several side effects, and they thought it was a lot to put me through, so they decided to just put me through therapies instead. And it did help. It did help me a fair bit. I used to not be able to sit still, get angry, and have to find different ways of releasing anger. And to this day, I didn't include some in my speech, but I tend to go for a run, which calms me down a lot more when I'm about to get angry. But in previous years, I used to do things differently, like throw stones around things when I was angry. Very disaster, but because of my health, going running works out cheaper for everyone. Hard to do it, but yeah.
Like Dylan was saying about structure. So again, finding structure even in running. So Angus and I did the park run, for example, the person you may have heard of the park run, and maybe College one on the Leamington one, etc. But that structure on 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, 5 kilometres, but also volunteering and doing all sorts of things. Those are young people with Asperger's syndrome that I know really enjoy the park run because there's real structure to it. Even if you don't run, you can volunteer, especially if you're interested in numbers, because of organising all the tokens and all sorts of different stuff like that. But I like the fact that you were telling me yesterday that you did a run outside, but you needed to, when you came inside, you needed to almost come down a little bit from that by doing a run inside. And that balanced it out. So understanding yourself is really important, isn't it? And understanding how you feel. I'm glad you didn't mention Aston Villa. So
No, don't worry, I'll be doing that.
Right. Yeah.
So what advice would you give now to sort of young people who are still trying to work out how to make friends and break into conversations?
Well, suppose you go and ask people, and if they nod you, then are you going to get help from a therapy or a course tutor? Because that's what I had, and it helped me. But yeah, I suppose I'd say just try, because you may be different to the others, but we're all the same. It's just our brains are wired differently, and yeah.
Would you say around special interests as well?
Yeah.
People who've got
We've got
similar
similar interests, you know, similar to you. It helps if they're same learning difficulty.
So that's
I know it's
a
really
good point.
challenging, but it's not impossible.
I think all four of you mentioned around in different ways, and that areas of special interest where you're going to make friends. Sometimes it's difficult to make being selective about I want to be friends with everyone, or I can't work out which person to be friends with. But there's some safety and security in terms of around the area of interest, because you can talk about similar sort of things. So it's that. I've got a young man who's interested in just the doors of washing machines. That's a little bit tricky. But genuinely, it's not just washing machines. I want to open doors and different types of doors. But hopefully we can expand that a little bit. But that area of interest.
Yeah, Doctor Who's a bit more mainstream.
Yeah.
It's really it's Marvel, wasn't that mainstream, was it?
No, exactly, because I mean, when I was in school, certainly when I was a teenager, it was sort of like late 90s, early 90s, and of course at that point, Marvel in terms of like TV and film presence, they'd only done like a bunch of animated series. The first X-Men film wasn't done until 2000. Of course, it's only after that that superhero films really took off. So it's like now it's really mainstream. You can usually find a lot of people that are into it. But back then, it was just seen as a kids' cartoon. So not a lot of teenagers that were really into it.
Right.